A landlord who lost her job during the pandemic was forced to pay to house a tenant who trashed her apartment and refused to pay rent during the eviction moratorium. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have a pretty bad story for you today, and it's going over what exactly happened with this landlord who lost her job during the pandemic, yet at the same time she was unable to evict this tenant who was just trashing her property and not paying rent at the same time. And it's a really sad situation, but I like to go over these situations to let you know that, hey, there were a lot of landlords who truly suffered throughout the whole eviction moratorium nonsense, and they are not getting justly compensated for all the mess that they went through. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you want to see on this channel. I'm going to work to keep bringing you articles about the eviction moratorium, rent control, any new landlord laws that are out there, and anything that's about real estate investing or being a landlord. So, this article comes from wave3.com, and it says, molded food, black syrup, vomit on the floor. Landlord's rights questioned in ongoing eviction crisis. And it looks like a good one, so let's get into it. During the pandemic eviction crisis, much attention has been given to tenants, but little has been paid to landlords and their rights. In Louisville, one eviction dispute started with a landlord's threat of eviction after non-payment and a tenant's threat right back that cited the eviction ban extension through the end of July. Then came a texted apology to landlord Michelle Richardson from her tenant for the undeserved stress caused. You've been brilliant toward me from the beginning. Texted promises like, I will take care of this and it will never happen again, weeks later, turned into, I will be moving today and the next 2 days. At the start of COVID, I actually lost my job, Richardson said. I was furloughed, and immediately when the world shut down, I offered to every tenant I had out there to work with them and see if they need help financially because I understood for sure. None took me up on it. So here we have a landlord, okay? She's like me and most other small landlords, and she also works a full-time job on top of being a landlord, okay? So unfortunately, when the pandemic began, she got furloughed herself, but she still reached out to her tenants and said, hey, we can work something out. And nobody took her up on that offer. But this tenant here still, just was playing games. And this is exactly what happens, okay? A lot of these tenants, they're just not the best people. I mean, why would you act like this to somebody who's trying to help you out? If you truly are suffering through the job loss or other lack of income due to this pandemic, you should be asking for help. You should be letting your landlord know exactly what you're going through so that they may help you out. But instead, you're playing these games, and it sounds like they were sending crazy texts back and forth. But hey, I mean, what obligation did this landlord have to even do all of that? I mean, none, really. She was really suffering herself, and I'm surprised that she was even able to make any sort of deal with any tenants who weren't paying, considering she wasn't working herself. But yeah, I mean, good on her for doing that. I did the same thing with my tenants. I reached out to all of them and said, hey, if any of you are having issues, just let me know. So yeah, I mean, good move by her. Something happened in the apartment Richardson once proudly rented out on Haight Avenue in Crescent Hill after promises were broken and the eviction process began. We changed the locks when we discovered the horror show inside, Richardson said. Molded food, black syrup, vomit on the floor, walls, drugs, drug paraphernalia, just everything you can think of that you would not want to clean up. She said it got worse. The inside of the destroyed apartment and the doorway smashed out with a brick weren't the most shocking part of this ordeal at Richardson. That happened when she called Louisville police to the residence. They stated all of my eviction notices didn't mean anything, and that it's the tenant's door and she can do what she wants, Richardson said. They even said to her, you can stay another 30 days, which just completely removes any sense of control or power I felt in this situation. Not helping in that situation and the damage to the property has left me, I have no idea what to do, which is a first. I've been doing this my whole life. Wow. Okay. So what it sounds like is a lot of criminal drug activity going on in her place. Okay. And she calls the police to say, hey, I've got all this crime and drug problem going on in my place. And the police say, hey, landlord and tenant issues are a civil matter. We don't do anything with that, which is pretty standard throughout the country. Okay. Now, I don't agree with that. I'm sure most of the landlords here watching this video also don't agree, but that is a pretty standard thing where the police just do not get involved in landlord tenant issues. So, yeah, that's not surprising that they took that stance, even with all the drug paraphernalia and all that. But yeah, if there were actual crimes going on at the time, maybe the police could do something. So I don't know if they were, what exactly this situation was going on in this situation, but maybe it clarifies further in the article. Richardson said police didn't even file a report for her damaged property. She did some research on the tenant and found the woman had done this before. A previous landlord told Richardson the woman physically assaulted her, smashed out the door, took her AC unit, owed her over $5,000, and it took months to get her out because of COVID. Stuart Pope of the Legal Aid Society explained what landlords who witness alleged criminal destruction of their property should do. The tenant is responsible to not damage the property, keep it in good condition and all that, Pope said. The landlord would be entitled to sue for damages and collect damages from the tenant. So, yeah, he's absolutely correct about that. But, going back a couple of paragraphs there, and suddenly the story sort of changes, okay? So, she says that she did a little bit of research on the tenant and then found out that the tenant basically screwed over her prior landlord too. So my question for this landlord is, where's your tenant screening at? Where is your tenant screening at? I've gone over this time and time and time again. And when it comes to tenant screening, we have to do a very, very thorough job to make sure that we don't put these kind of destructive tenants into our properties, because this is exactly what's going to happen, okay? So she left her last landlord owing $5,000 and, physically, it says a previous landlord said that the woman physically assaulted her. So why would you rent to somebody who had physically assaulted their previous landlord and owed him $5,000? I mean, that's crazy. All you would have had to do is check her prior references, check her criminal history, check her eviction history, and call up her previous landlord. And guess what? All of this would have been exposed before you had put this lady in your property in the first place, okay? And then you would have just said, nope, no way. No, you go find somewhere else to live. You're not welcome here. And so I can't really blame 100% of this situation on this eviction moratorium or on the police for not taking action for seeing the problem, because this landlord did not do a proper job of tenant screening. So yeah, I'm going to lay into her, because I mean, you have to be serious about this stuff. All of us as landlords, we know just how bad it can be if we don't properly screen our tenants, and this is the result, okay? So, if you're a landlord and someone is smashing your property, destroying your property, you just sit back and wait for a lawsuit, Wave 3 News asked? No. I think at that point you either take out a warrant, or if it is actively going on, I would suggest that they call police, Pope said. As for how LMPD handled Richardson's case, they responded by saying they understand her frustration with the eviction process, but that it's a civil issue and they followed proper protocol. Pope said tenants using every tool at their disposal can stretch out an eviction for 6 to 8 weeks. Richardson said the lease violations began in the middle of May. The first eviction notice was sent July 5th. The eviction hearing was held September 30th. It's now October. 3 months have gone by. Yeah, eviction processes are not fast, and especially since they probably were holding off due to the eviction moratorium that had been in place. So getting this tenant out of there, yeah, it's going to be months on end. Okay, you're going to lose thousands of dollars just trying to get this tenant out of there. That's unfortunate. It is part of the business, though, and I still hate hearing about it. I've gone through it, okay? I've gone through it. Lost thousands of dollars to a tenant who just would not leave. Trashed my place, spent thousands of dollars fixing it up afterwards, and that's just the way it is. So yeah, bad story, partly this landlord's own fault, but still the eviction moratorium only made things worse. Okay, so I feel bad for this landlord still, even though she made a mistake with her tenant screening process.